Hello, Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here, and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of Toy Photographers Showcase. Okay then, so Toy Photography Showcase then is where myself and my co-host Mark BobaHicks invite on a toy photographer and quiz them about their top 5 toy photography photos that they have personally taken themselves. So without further ado, let's crack on and get my co-host on, Mark BobaHicks. Hello, sir. How are you?
How's it going, Stu? Glad to be back after a brief hiatus. It's good to have the
Yeah,
Toy Photographer Showcase back on the road. Looking
absolutely. It's
forward
been a while,
to.
isn't it? It's been a while.
Been a while. It seems like it's been a couple of months, and look, we both have a lot of stuff going on. You've got other shows to be doing. I've got other shows to be doing. We're just two men who are in demand, and there's only so much of us to go around. It can be
That's
pretty
it.
tough
We
sometimes.
can only spread our talents so far. So, but yeah, but since the last time we spoke on a toy photographer showcase, because you, like most people know, you were a keen toy photographer. Have you taken any of those sort of like tips and ways of doing photography and applied them to your own photography? Have you tried that yet? Other methods and different ways of doing photography?
Uh, truthfully, probably not that much. Now, I have thought about the techniques a lot, and I've thought about a lot of what was told to me. But one thing about me is, as I'm sure anybody who looks at my Instagram can tell, I am a creature of habit. I tend to
Yeah,
do the same thing over and over again. And but like one day I do plan to expand my repertoire a bit.
yeah,
And when I do decide to kind of branch out and experiment with things, I will be actually going back and reviewing the footage from our previous episodes because there's an absolute gold mine of knowledge there.
yeah,
Because we've spoken to a lot of really talented guys, and like today's guest is going to be no exception. So like I can honestly say there will always be something new to learn, or like a no pun intended, a new angle to look at.
yeah.
So even though I haven't applied a lot of that knowledge yet, I will apply it someday.
Awesome, awesome. And talking of our talented guest, it's a pleasure to welcome to the channel for the first time, Andy from Sidiousart. Hello, sir. How are you?
Not bad at all, Stu. Hey, BobaHicks. Nice to
How's it
see you
going, man?
guys.
Yeah. Well, look, listen. Firstly, a massive thank you for agreeing to do this. It does mean a lot. Now, we met each other briefly at the last Echo Live event, and I've got to say, walking around, I saw your photography, and instantly I was blown away. I just think what you do with the figures that you use, I just think is absolutely incredible. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Andy?
Yeah, sure. So Andy, been doing wedding photography for about 15 years, and I love Star Wars. So I incorporated the wedding photography or the photography, and combined the Star Wars love and just kind of mashed it into one. So I've been doing that for about 7 years.
Oh, wow. Wow. But it's not just any Star Wars figures that you are using for your photography, or is it? Because what you were viewing or selling, should I say, up at Echo, it was all vintage Kenner. So is that what you use predominantly?
Yes, it is predominantly. Yes, absolutely. So as a kid who doesn't like Star Wars, you kind of grew up on these things. So
Yeah.
I remember having the Luke Skywalker in Jedi Knight suit and just
Yeah.
eating the hell out of it. But I loved it. It was my favorite character. But I ate the hand. Um, so I'll never forget that. But yes, what can I say? I've just loved Star Wars and the journey that it's taken me on.
Yeah. So with your wedding photography then, what was the thinking behind you taking the photographs of Star Wars? Did it one day just the penny drop and go, do you know what? I like Star Wars. I want to take photography
No, not
of Star
quite.
Wars.
Not
Or
quite. I I reunited with a mate about 8 years ago, and he came over for a beer, and he just randomly came out with it. He said, "You still like Star Wars?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." He goes, "I'm going to Comic Con." I'm like, "Right, okay. I've never been to a Comic Con before. I'm a little bit
Yeah.
shy. Okay, what do I expect?" But he said, "Oh, um, Mr. Boba Fett is going to London Comic Con. I want to get an autograph." I said, "Wow, okay, that's really cool." And he started telling me that there was other stars going there from Star Wars, and they just do signatures.
Yeah.
Go along, come along with me. I said, "Yeah, great." So we turn up, and this place, I don't know if you've been to London Comic Con before, but it is huge,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely huge. I'm seeing all these people, all these creative people selling their, digitized artwork or their drawings and other, crazy stuff. And by the time we left, I thought, I could do something like this. I'm creative. I've been doing wedding photography for, at the time, about 12-ish years. I need to do one of these London Comic Cons. I need to go to a Comic Con and come up
Yeah.
with this idea and see if it sells. So maybe about 3 months later, and it took me, yes, about 3 months to get the spark. I was on holiday with my wife, and I'm sat there. I'm like, what can I do what idea can I come up with?
Yeah.
And I'm sat there on the beach, and after a couple of tequilas or whatever, it suddenly comes to me, old school Star Wars.
Yeah.
Use my photography skills that I've been doing for God knows how long, and incorporate it with some sort of background, because I was still kind of learning at the time. Come up with some sort of background, familiar background,
Yeah.
with the old Star Wars figures. So I practiced a few times,
Yeah.
maybe for a few months, just practicing, trying to get things right. Yeah, and out pops my first image.
That is insane because so we've done a few of these episodes, and the guys that do their photography, they use like sort of like 6-inch scale figures, whether it's Black Series or DC Multiverse or whatever, or they use the modern day sort of like Star Wars figures from TVC. What was it with you then that you predominantly wanted to use the original Kenner figures? Because let's be honest, there's not much articulation in
Yeah.
those figures. But saying that, and we'll get to your photography in a second, what you've done with those figures, you have brought them to life, and like I say, we're going to view those in a second.
I think it's I don't know. I like a challenge, and
Yeah,
if you're able to bend the light, the modern Star Wars figures are brilliant. They're so detailed, so many articulations. With the old school figures, like you mentioned, Stu, there isn't a lot of articulation, and I
yeah,
like a bit of a challenge. And
yeah,
at the time, I kind of knew. I did my research. There wasn't a lot of people that was doing the old school Kenner
yeah,
figures.
yeah.
You know, so I
That's
challenged
cool.
myself.
But
I like to challenge myself, so I
well,
had a go.
yeah. I mean, you've certainly you've done a great job, but you've gone one step further because, like I say, I saw you up at Echo, so you're actually selling your prints, so you're kind of making a living off that as well, aren't you? Which is pretty cool.
Yes, yes, and it's it's not just about putting the figures together and taking a quick snap. There's a lot of thought process behind it.
Yeah,
Sometimes a month or two of preparation. So when I went to my first Comic Con and I had my stall, and somebody came along and kind of gave me some compliments like you did. Um, he bought it at like 9 o'clock in the morning. I think it was even before the show started. So I think it must have been a trader. And I just thought, my wife said to me, "Don't be disheartened if you're not going to sell anything." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm not going to sell anything. Thanks for saying that." And then 9 o'clock,
comforting
before we
words.
even opened, somebody bought it. And it's the best feeling ever, because I've been
Yeah,
like 3 or 4 months, I've been putting like a portfolio together,
yeah,
stressing out about it, really putting a lot of time and effort into it, learning at the same time, because I've never photographed figures before. And then
yeah.
somebody comes along and says, "They're great. I want to buy one." It was such a beautiful, amazing feeling.
Yeah, no, and fair play to you, man. Fair play to you. They are absolutely fantastic. So let's crack on. I'll pop this up. Let me. Well, where is it? Why is it? Oh, it's taking its time. There you go. Let's move that out of the way. So there you go. So this is your honourable mention.
Yeah.
I mean, mate, that is cool. Mark, I mean, did you want to take anything out of this? Lead this?
First of all, I first got a proper look at your Insta page a couple of days ago, because Stu, I had watched Stu's video of the Echo Live pickups where he mentioned where he'd met you and he'd
Mm,
mentioned this. Oh, you know, we're going to get Andy on, or we're going to try and get Andy on for a toy photographer's showcase. So a couple of days ago, when Stu sent me the link for our or for today's stream, he also obviously sent me on the link to your page on Insta, and I was blown away, I have to say, and I did. I'm glad this shot made it in some capacity because I do remember it from scrolling your page, and I'm glad it's here. It's a beautiful shot just to kick things off with,
thank
like from like looking at this like from start to finish. How long did this take to like set up and complete?
Yeah, well, to set up probably about, you know, you forward think, I'm always forward thinking about how am I going to do it. So I go to work during the day and I'm thinking, how am I going to set this up in the evening? So I kind of set it up within about half an hour, 40 minutes.
Wow.
But the reins, the opposite side of the next door to Hand's hand, is actually broken. So I really
Yeah.
had to, because there's so, I mean, it came to me. I actually bought it, and that's not from my loft. I actually bought the TomTom from eBay, and
Oh,
everything
wow.
came intact. Everything came
Yeah.
intact. It was, you pay a nice penny for it.
Yeah.
The reins came intact, and I thought, wow, amazing. I picked it up, and it just fell apart.
They
Being
are
in
so
somebody's
brittle. That's
loft,
the thing, though, isn't it? That's the thing.
yeah, they're so
They are so
delicate.
brittle.
Being in somebody's loft maybe for many years, just maybe in the cold, the weather probably didn't help, and it just fell apart. So I kind of had to bend it round. I don't know what you want to call it, the middle part, and
Yeah.
hide the fact that it was broken. Um,
I mean, it's a stunning shot. I mean, it's. I mean, what have you done with the legs? Oh no, it's his arm. That's his arm. I thought it was his legs. It's not. It's his arm. It's the Tauntaun's arm. Um, so with setting up, I mean, I've taken you've got a base there. The bottom part is the base. What have you used as a background? Is that a screenshot or something?
so that's one of the things that I've always kind of kept secret.
Oh,
If I was to go into detail, you probably the magic probably wouldn't be there so much. So
yeah,
I'm not. I don't really want to go into detail about how I do it, but I can tell you that I'm sat on the floor. I've got my camera on like a mini tripod.
yeah,
I've got my shutter, kind of a remote shutter, remote, and I haven't got enough hands. So what you're seeing on the floor is talcum powder. I can tell you that.
Oh wow.
It's talcum powder,
Yeah, yeah,
and you can see the spray along the top. I didn't have enough hands to kind of hold the camera steady, take the
yeah,
picture with the remote. I needed a third hand, so I kindly asked my wife to come in um, with a, what do you call it, like a colander, like a metal mesh colander
yeah,
filled
yeah,
with talcum powder, and she's standing behind. Oh, that's right. So I've got a hand with the controller, the other hand with the light, and I've got my camera in front of me. So I needed a third hand. So my wife is basically shaking this colander, and I'm taking the pictures as much as I
But
can.
it's
So
an absolutely stunning shot. It really is. I just think it's incredible. And like we've said these are 5 POA figures, original Star Wars Kenner figures, and
yeah,
you've brought that to life.
thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
Mark, is there anything
I
else
mean,
you want to add to that, Mark, before we crack on?
Yeah, like now that you've kind of explained how that came about, because I couldn't really tell what the texture was. Like I
mm,
get like as you've explained it now, it makes sense. But I was curious, like, was that a visual effect he's used to almost get this feeling of like falling snow? But now we know you had an extra hand there to help
yeah,
you, which is totally cool. It's totally cool. No, but
you'll
like it's
see.
one of those things. You know, like Stu said, and as you agreed with him earlier, like these figures, they are very limited in their articulation compared to something modern. Yeah, you've kind of created something very lifelike and natural.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't know about the vintage line, I would assume that they were probably more posable and articulate than they actually
Mm,
are, because
mm.
you've found just the right balance to make it look like this could actually be a guy riding on a tauntaun, essentially. So yeah, no, it's a banging shot. It's
I,
really great shot.
I think as much as the Kenner figures are very limited in articulation, so where you've got his arm coming down holding the rein, it looks like it just looks natural. You can't see any joins in there, can you? So it does look like it's a. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
you know, I think that's superb, absolutely superb. Why did this one not make it into your top five? Well, obviously because you've got five other ones that you like better, I guess. But
Yeah, I mean that's the simple one. That's
yeah,
the simple one. I mean, I I wanted to show you this one because of the creativity, the funny
yeah,
story, wife having to come in. But those shadows on the floor, they're meant to be there to add the reality to it, the realism to it. And you'll
oh,
see that with the other three.
you're certainly getting that feeling of reality from
Mm,
looking at that shot. And like I say, what you've done, and the thing that impresses me the most with photography and really good photographers is the aspect of the lighting and the
mm,
mood that light can can take. Now, BobaHicks, I praise him a lot because he does a lot of outside natural photography. And sometimes with that sky background, it just looks absolutely incredible. It really does set the mood of the photo. And, you can certainly pick a certain vibe off of it. And I think lighting, and whether it's natural lighting or whether it's studio lighting, I think it really does add a lot to the photo for sure. Absolutely. Right. Okay. Let's crack on. So I've not done these in any order. Well, I have.
yeah,
I've saved my favorite one to the last. But
yeah.
so we'll crack on with this one. So again, absolutely stunning shot. What was your thought process or inspiration
Well,
for this photo?
well, this is called The Last Scout, and I'm pretty sure I met somebody at one of the Comic Cons who said, "Have you got a scout?" And I was like, "No, I haven't actually, but it's on my check off list to do."
Yeah.
So I'll talk you through it. So it was a rainy day.
Yeah.
It was a quite a heavy rainy day. Little scout trooper kept falling over. I was getting stressed out. I don't usually get stressed out, but I'm laying down on the floor in the rain. Luckily, my camera is kind of kind of waterproof ish,
Yeah.
and the rain is hammering it down, knocking the poor figure over like all the time. The background are actually I can tell you the background on this one. The background are just sticks. They're just sticks.
Wow.
They're just sticks from a tree. So I've gone to my garden and I've snapped off or found lots of sticks. Um, and yeah, I've put it on I think a pretty slow shutter speed, so you
Right.
can see the rain. Yeah, that's it really. Pretty straightforward. It's called The Last Scout. And it took me absolutely forever, and I got a cold because of it. Funny story, I got a
Wow.
cold because of it because I was freezing my bum off.
That is just stunning. Mark?
It's an absolute beauty. And once again, if it wasn't for the fact I own the figure and know about the vintage line, I would have assumed it could actually be a picture of a scout trooper
Yeah.
standing in the rain. It's that realistic. And yeah, I don't even think articulation or anything would even come into it here, because it like, once again, it's just it's a little thing. His blaster is slightly raised. He's not just
Mm.
standing like, wooden to attention. It's that little bit of naturalistic movement that you've happened to capture, and then just with the rain and everything coming down in the background, it's just a beauty. How long were you lying out in the rain and wind trying to set all this up?
Yeah, setting up probably it didn't take a hell of a long time. But like I said, I was probably in the rain for about a good like 40 minutes. I took
Wow.
so many pictures. He kept falling over. He kept having big splodges of rain on the head. You can see some kind of on his on his right knee, our left knee, there's a bit of mud that's kind of crept up, which is great because it looks more realistic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so about 40 minutes, BobaHicks.
Wow. Wow. I mean, is there anything that you would do differently in your approach to this photo, or is there anything that you would change about this photo?
Very, very good question. I probably maybe would have made the bike. I can't remember what you call it.
Speeder bike.
The speeder bike. I probably would have
Yeah.
made that more a little bit in focus, just a little bit more. And I purposely with the bike, you've got the legs. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
You've got the legs that are on the bike.
Yeah.
I can't quite see it here, but I did kind of try and purposely not. I didn't really want you to see that. So there's no
Yeah.
editing with all my photographs. There's 90% of my photographs are Photoshop free,
Wow.
purposely. You know, I know how to use Photoshop fairly well.
Mm.
But all I've done here with an editing tool is just kind of just made it. I've taken away the color a little bit. That's all
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
So I made it
I mean,
look quite faded.
you saying it's like slightly blurred, but do you know what? For me, I don't mind that because we
Yeah,
know it's there, but it's the focus is on the scout trooper,
yeah.
which I like, and yeah, and I think that's fantastic, and the rain coming down as well. Again, when I first saw this, I thought it was some kind of like special effect that you used.
Oh,
I wonder
really?
if you, I was because I knew that I was going to have this one on here, obviously. And then when you said about the story with your wife with the
Yeah.
colander, I wondered if she had like a watering can and she was like sitting there with the watering can, putting it,
No, not
making the
quite.
rain effects. But yeah, it just absolutely stunning. Boba,
No, I echo what you say, almost to the letter, Stu. It's an absolutely marvelous shot. Like I love, like, for me in my own type photography, I love going outside, and sometimes the elements, I know from experience, wind and rain can be a real killer and a real pain. And then you know what, when you're trying
Yeah,
to set up a shot and when you're trying to get a figure just to stay where you want them to stay, and next thing the rain comes or the wind comes and it just messes everything up, and you have to keep, going back, rinse and repeat. So I can
yeah.
definitely appreciate the effort that you've gone through in order to get the finished product here. What was it about this one that you said, look, this is definitely in my top five, it's one of my favorites?
Yeah, I mean, how I did it, the memories. I'll never forget this shot because I laid in the rain. You know, the things you do for a photograph.
yeah,
But also, I've sold a lot of them. The same sort of amazing reactions that you guys have given me. So that's why it's made it into my top five because it is a very popular print that people buy.
yeah, absolutely stunning. Quality, absolutely quality. So going back, you said that you took quite a few shots of this
Yeah,
because the figure kept on falling over and
yeah.
whatnot. When do you know you've got that ideal shot and you think that's no more?
Oh, before when I'm actually photographing, or
Yeah,
when I put them on
when
the
you
computer.
photograph. So, you
Oh, I
took
see.
loads of photos of this one.
Yeah, I think you kind of, I think they call it chimping. Somebody said it to me once. You kind of look back at your camera and you kind of flick through the photographs. And of course, it's raining. I'm taking advantage of the rain and I'm flicking through, and I'm just, no, he's got too much. His body's too twisted,
Yeah,
you know. And don't get me wrong, I'm constantly doing this, twisting him, changing his arms, you know. And it's always weirdly one of the last couple of shots that I think to myself, yeah, that's it. So basically, in answer to your question, I'll keep going until I'm really happy.
oh, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So that is your first of the top five. We'll move on. This one here. So again, an absolutely stunning shot. I've said it before. The lighting, it certainly adds to absolutely the photo there. And what was your thought process? I can't say inspiration because we know what the inspiration is, really, don't
Yeah,
we? It was Return of the Jedi. So what was
yeah.
your thought process behind this one?
Well, this was a tough one. The thought process behind this was I I try and come up with names for the shots, sometimes before,
Yeah,
sometimes after. And I always thought I had this vision of my head of Boba Fett stood in front of Han Solo and Carbonate as a reward. He's been chasing him for God knows how long.
yeah,
And this is he's gone to Jabba's palace, and this is the reward. Not the money, but this is the reward. Having him kind of, like you would put a photograph on the wall.
yeah.
So that was my thought process, and I kind of put it into practice really.
That's pretty cool because it's like the scene we never saw from Return of the Jedi, isn't it? Really,
It's a
we
familiar
never saw.
setting that you never really saw. Yeah,
Yeah,
I imagined him standing in front of Han Solo going, "Yeah, I got him," sort of thing. Very
yeah,
proud.
yeah. No, I like that. That's
Mhm.
that's awesome. Absolutely awesome. And again, I'm liking the fact that you've used the last 17 um Han Solo carbonite block there as well, which is pretty cool. Is Han Solo actually in there as well? Is he?
He is, if you look
He is.
closely, he is
Yeah,
actually in there.
yeah.
I
To see him. Yeah.
the carbonate kept slipping off, so I had to cable tie his feet together to make sure they go into the slots. I had to cable tie something else, probably his hands. Oh yeah, that's
Okay.
right. So had to cable
Yeah.
tie his kind of body so his hands could fit in the little slots as well.
Oh wow. Wow. Mark.
It's absolutely awesome shot. I think what I like looking at your stuff so far, and no doubt it will probably be a similar feeling when we look at the rest of your photos, is it's almost like the type of thing that, even as a child playing with these toys, you could visualize something like this in your mind, but not necessarily ever have the ability to manifest it and make it a reality. So I can actually appreciate you being able to take that idea of Fett admiring his trophy, and being there at this moment in Jabba's palace, which we don't see, on screens, with this cool, almost little kind of like, this is what was happening off camera.
Yeah.
The stuff that we didn't see. Now this, the previous picture we looked at, it was outdoors, it was in the elements. This looks, I'm guessing, like it was done indoors. How long did this all take to set up and get ready and
Yeah,
complete?
it took a couple of days because the floor, I think it was like plasticine. I wanted it to look kind of dirty and sandy, and I use a lot of sand in my photographs, but I didn't actually use any sand in this particular one. And I think I got some sort of greenish yellowish paint and just painted on the floor on the plasticine. I think the plasticine
Wow.
was white. I can't quite remember. It was a long time ago. So yeah, it took a couple of days to kind of set up, and I really do like Boba Fett, so I really wanted to do this one justice. So again, you mentioned about that in general, the hand positions. I took loads of pictures of this one. It must have taken me a good couple of hours before I realized, yeah, that's the one. And in fact, thinking about it, I wasn't happy. So I set it all up the next day and did it all again.
Wow. That's that's mad.
And I
Absolutely
think
mad.
I think I wanted the light. So my torch light thing, they call it an ice light. I think I held it to the left, shining. So there was lots of contours and shadows going from left to right
Yeah.
to really kind of make it pop and stand out,
The thing is, what I'm loving about these photography shots that we've seen so far, they look so simple.
Mm.
They do. They look so simple, but the reality is they're not simple. I would
No,
never guess this would have taken a couple of days to set up. I really wouldn't. That is
absolutely,
insane. That's insane.
absolutely. I
I
mean,
mean,
even the shadows and the darkness, the background was
yeah,
was like the middle. It was very yellow. So just getting those shadows and making it look dark and dungeony,
yeah.
it
Oh,
all on purpose.
you've certainly captured that. You've certainly captured that, and the look that you wanted. I think you've definitely hit the nail on the head there with that. So you've said that you've already took photos the next day. I mean, looking at it now, is there anything that you would do differently in your approach to this photo? Was there anything you would change?
I would probably add maybe a little bit of sand. I always use
Yeah,
sand. In my Star Wars pictures, there's sand everywhere. My wife hates
yeah.
it. I'm always forever in like
Well,
hoovering.
so did Anakin.
Um,
Anakin hated sand too, but
yeah,
she's not the only one.
wife is Anakin.
Yeah,
Um, I probably would have added a little bit of sand on the floor, but to be honest, I'm quite happy with that one.
yeah. Okay, cool. Mark?
Well, look, I'm always delighted when people say they wouldn't change a thing because I probably wouldn't change a thing about it either if I was being honest with you. Um, I'd say I suspect you mentioned you love Boba Fett. Is it that the reason why this has made it into your top five? Is it your favorite of your Boba Fett shots or one of your favorites?
Yeah, it's definitely up there. It's definitely up there. Um, yeah, what a cool figure, you know. It was. I think after talking to lots of people over the years, you know, people do say the Boba Fett figure was their favorite, and going to all these shows where I go to sell, people just talk about their favorite characters, etc., etc. But they will always talk about Boba Fett. He will always get mentioned in the conversation.
I mean, he's in fantastic condition. Absolute
Mm,
fantastic condition. He
mm.
looks superb. Was this one of your childhood ones?
I think it was a friend's. I think it was a mate that
Okay.
actually introduced me to Comic Cons. So I borrowed a few off him.
Okay.
And once I got into it, you know, going to my mum and dad's loft.
Mm.
Nobody has the pew pews, do they? Nobody has the pew
No,
pews.
no, true.
You know, you'd be very lucky to get them. So
Yeah.
sometimes I hate to say it, you do pay like 20, 30 quid just for a blaster.
Yeah, I
Mm.
know. Yeah, yeah. It's it
Maybe
looks
more.
an expensive hobby, an expensive hobby. Okay,
Absolutely.
let's move on then to the third one. And again,
Wow.
wow. I mean, I'm just again absolutely stunning, absolutely stunning. Um, we know the inspiration. This is from Star Wars: A New Hope, the original Star Wars. So, what was your thought process on this then?
Yeah, I wanted a scene, a similar sort of background and scene to the film, A New Hope.
Yeah.
Didn't actually realize, you know, in my inexperience going back, well, 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, that they did the escape pod. I didn't have a clue.
Mm. I mean, I
I didn't
love
have,
what you've done with the escape pod because you've got sand on the top of the escape pod as well. So it's just that little bit of attention to detail there that I really like about that. It's
yeah,
again absolutely stunning. And then the droid R2D2. Now it he does look quite yellowed on the sticker, but
yes,
that's fine because that works so well with this photo because being in the sand in the desert, you're going to get yellow and dusty and sandy. So that's an absolute treat there. That's worked perfectly.
yeah. I'm glad you noticed. You know, I once you finish the shot and you know, you kind of think to yourself, yeah, it looks real, great, well done, Andy, well done. So yeah, thanks for the feedback. But with C3PO, that was quite tough because the light, I really had to play around with the light because
Yeah.
light that I was using, what's the word, bleached out the eyes, and you got lots
Okay.
of reflection. So it is
Yeah.
really holding this light in front, behind, like this, down low to not get the reflections, and that's what I found really tough about this particular one. And I
Yeah.
really wanted to get R2's eye glowed up as well. If you were to grab hold of your R2D2,
Yeah.
the eye would only shine in the light. So again, I probably had a couple of lights, but mainly I just used the one light. But again, I wanted that bright eye effect,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was a tough shot. It was a really
No,
tough
it
shot.
it looks absolutely stunning, and I know what you mean about light hitting off the head. I get that all the time. There's not really much I can do about that. So, yeah, yeah. Mark.
Yeah, I'd imagine, it was probably a pretty complex shot to set up. I'd say even just trying to, not capture your own reflection and the nice chrome of C3PO was
Yeah.
pretty tricky as well. Did it take you long to kind of pull everything together and get it the way you wanted? Were you a long time setting it up?
Yeah, I mean, the sand was the easier part of it. The skate pod, yeah, putting the sand on top of that, making it real, try to make it look as real as possible. Setting up, yeah. Again, I think it took about half an hour or so. I think
Wow.
C3PO was his limbs weren't so firm, so he kept kind of drooping. So I had to kind of, adjust him quite a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but otherwise, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
That is pretty cool. I mean, is there anything that you would do differently in your approach to this photo, or do you think that you would change looking at it now because of this
Yeah,
photo?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I love my shadows. I love my shadows. My screen's a little bit dark. I can see a little bit of shadow. I probably would have liked a little bit more shadow going from right to left. And maybe C3, being able to see C3PO's feet. Maybe I know it's sand. I know
Yeah,
he's a droid. Maybe see his feet maybe a touch more.
yeah.
That's me being really silly picky.
No, no, no. I mean, crikey. I mean, they say artists are their own worst critic, but yeah, I mean, I've got to
Or
say,
maybe
I
maybe even thinking about it, I really like the hand on the head effect, but
yeah, but that's the
maybe
customary
maybe
pose,
I
though,
could have,
isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
That's the kind of
Maybe I could
customary
have done
pose.
a wave. I've only just thought of that after many years of that
How
shot.
how difficult was it for you with not just the head of C3PO, but the reflection of yourself in his chrome with the back metal?
I don't think I had too much problem with the reflection because
Yeah,
I kind of, I kind of stand out the way and kind of hide sometimes behind the camera and the tripod. I
yeah.
know it sounds silly, but you can actually do that.
No, 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 no. That's absolutely fine, mate. Absolutely fine. Mark.
No, it's amazing. I was really just admiring the kind of the scale of the depth, even like the landscape behind them. There's a nice kind of gradual
Yeah,
kind of feeling of, okay, we've got the droids up front, slightly behind them. We've got the crashed escape pod, which is probably a considerable distance away, and then we see the Tatooine desert landscape in the background, and it all just kind of rolls nice and natural. Like I could really. This is the type of thing that and I've said it to other people before on the show, but it definitely rings true here. If I was working for like Kenner back in the day, I'd be hiring people like you to do like product shots for the catalogs, for the publicity, because
thank you.
this is the type of thing that once again, as a child in your imagination, it's like you'd love to be able to do this with your toys.
Yeah,
You'd love to be able to, like, the closest you might get is maybe if you're lucky you have a sandbox in the back garden, or
Yeah.
you get to bring them to the beach or something. Um, like once again, and this would always be my curiosity. What was it about this one that cracked your top five? What made it one of your favorites?
The fact that everybody knows this shot. You think of Star Wars. Who do you think of Star Wars?
yeah,
You think straight away of C3PO, then R2D2, or R2D2, then C3PO, and that crash landing. It's what started everything. You know,
mm,
um, with the Death Star plans. It is the to me it's the iconic Star Wars droids
yeah,
scene.
yeah, definitely. And I just want to touch on what Mark said as well. With the way this is shot, you can sense just how vast and barren that desert is. It's just incredible. It's just like miles and miles of nothingness, and you've captured that in this shot as well. So
Thank you so
it's
much.
just absolutely tremendous. Love
I
it.
mean, thank you.
Superb. Moving on. Okay, so we've got another sort of like familiar um, setting. What was your thought process behind this? Because again, the inspiration, obviously, Star Wars, A New Hope. So yeah, I mean, loving this. So what was the thought process?
The thought process was this is actually quite a recent one. I'm sure I did this summertime last year, and I've
Okay.
always wanted. I have a hit list, or I made a list of familiar scenes, characters that I wanted to take images of, and the thought process was I can't do it. I cannot do it. I've thought about it over and over again. I cannot do it, and then I like to challenge myself like the next person, and you just think and you think and you think, how can I do it? How can I pull it off? And then, you know, similar to the beach, sitting on the
Yeah.
beach, it just kind of comes to you. And that amazing scene when Greedo sticks the blaster in Han Solo's back or chest, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I wanted to incorporate the other figures as well. Why should I? I've got a picture above me of just the two of them, Han Solo and Greedo.
Yeah.
Um, and then I went back to the drawing board and I had to go to eBay to get one or two of the figures, um, because all of those guys in this picture are in the scene, are in the
Yeah.
canteen. So
Yeah.
why leave them out, you know? Again, lots of sand on the floor, not too much this time. All of the shadows right at the bottom, all of the character shadows, they're all meant to be there. And I didn't want to stop until I got those shadows. They're all
Yeah.
looking at they're all looking at Greedo and Han Solo as if to say, you know, there's trouble.
Yeah.
um, and again, the contours and the shadows on Greedo, for example, just on Greedo and on his neck, I I want to make it pop. I want it to make it. I want it to make as I want it to make it. I want it to make it look as real as possible.
Yeah.
And obviously, they're toys. If I
Yeah.
just put a camera in front of it and took a picture, you'd think it's just a picture of toys. But there's lots of, like you said, there's a lot of thought process that goes behind it.
Oh,
With
definitely, definitely, and yeah, they are just toys. But what the for me, the mark of a good photographer is being able to make a plastic toy come to life, whether it's 5 POA,
yeah,
whether it's the most modern articulated figure, you know, and that takes some doing. That takes some talent. You've got to have a real good eye for that kind of thing. And I take my hat off because again, I mean, the absolute classic figures for starters.
mm,
I love all of those aliens from the original trilogy and the original Kennerline and stuff like that. But again, what you've done here, you have brought an element of life to those figures because again, we don't have the multi joints of the knees and the ankles and the elbows and stuff like that, which can break a contour line, which can break lines and stuff like
yeah.
that. So this is all free flowing and stuff like that. So yeah, you've definitely captured that realistic
Thank you.
look there for sure. Mark?
I love it. I absolutely. This is one of my personal favorites of the ones we've shown so far. I'm really drawn to the characters like around Han and Greedo. So like, Hammerhead, Walrus Man, Snaggletooth. I just like the way it feels like they are really paying attention and taking in what's actually happening between Han and Greedo. I just like that. The other Denzians of this cantina are given great consideration to what's about to go down between Han and Greedo. I'm
Mm,
also kind of, and I know the magician doesn't always like to reveal the secrets behind the tricks, but this background here, it looks constructed out of actual materials. Like, did you build something to make this? Or?
no, I'm afraid not. I can tell you how I did this particular one. I have a big 17-inch Apple Mac, so there was a lot of trawling through the internet looking for a familiar, nice looking background that's going to make you think, oh, that's well, nice background, good setup. So again, I must have been looking for this particular background on the internet. Sorry to say, for a good few months. So
Wow.
it is an image that I came across.
Was it?
That alone,
Oh,
I
sorry, go on, Mark.
suppose this makes it. Oh, and I was just going to say that I suppose like when I usually ask you how long something takes process wise, so far it's kind of like 30, 40 minutes. But if you're spending months looking for that perfect image, that is an artist's dedication because you're you
Yeah,
know you're obviously looking. You need that exact image to match up with what you're looking for. And to be honest with you, you could have turned around and told me, oh, I built that diorama because eh, you know this is also the mark of someone who's actually a photographer by trade, which you are. So you know how to make things like blend and use lighting to actually just make everything seem so
yeah,
natural and like I couldn't have guessed how this was done unless you told me. Like it's that well done. Like it's
thank
it's
Yeah.
you.
it's a professional job, to say the least. Yeah, no, really great shot.
Thank you.
I'm just going to echo what Mark said. For you to spend hours looking for that right background, I mean, you must have trawled through thousands and thousands of images because there's got to be loads of images of the cantina online.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what can I say? It was I found this one and instantly thought, oh my god, and it's all about key searches, isn't it? You can't just type in cantina. You've got to use other sort of word searches to come up with different stuff. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're just going to keep coming up with the same backgrounds.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
true.
eventually found this one, and I was super happy.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, absolutely awesome. So, what is it? No, hang on a minute. Is no, I'm jumping ahead. Is there anything that you would do differently in your approach to this photo, or is there anything that you would change with this photo?
Um, no, I really do like this image the way it is. I mean, again, I did a lot of twisting, making sure they're all facing the right way. Their arms are facing the right way. The gaps between Greedo and Hammerhead, the gap between their elbow, that's on purpose. The gap
Yeah,
between Han and Walrus Man, that's on purpose. The blasters with all of them, especially Han and Greedo, that's if you can see it, that it looks like an S shape between the nose and the bottom of the gun. So that's all on purpose. So would I change anything on this one? Nah, definitely not.
no.
Happy.
I mean, when it comes to photography, you you can spend absolute hours taking hundreds and hundreds of shots.
Yeah.
When do you know enough is enough?
um, I think I
Because
take
I
on.
mean,
I think
because they say artists are never happy with their work. They always
yeah.
try and tweak things and stuff.
Yes.
So when do you know when, okay, that's as good as I'm gonna get it?
Because I'm in front of the computer. This is the second time I've done this particular one.
Yeah,
I'm doing the shots. I'm looking back. I'm what's the word? Chimping. I'm looking back at the screen. I'm sweating my bum off. I promise you, I'm stood here. I'm sweating my bum off. I'm crouching down. My legs are aching, and it gets to the point. Like I said to you earlier, you get to the last couple of shots, and you think, "I'm done. It's the way I want it. I
yeah,
can't change anything else because I did it the night before. I've set everything up again today. I've spent like 45 minutes, maybe an hour, setting things up, taking pictures, maybe longer, clearing all the stuff away, packing up the sand, putting the figures back in my cabinet. It's there
yeah.
is a time to call it a day, but luckily, I was very happy with this particular one.
Cool, cool. Mark?
Yeah, well, look, I'd be very happy with it too if I were you. It's a beautiful shot. You mentioned it was, one of the more recent shots
Yeah,
we've looked at here. What was it about this one that you thought, "Lo, this is worthy of top five material"?
it's it's the shadows, it's the contours, it's the colors as well. We haven't mentioned the colors. The colors really popped,
Yeah,
and with the editing tool that I do use, just to make it. Sometimes you take pictures kind of skew if, like not completely straight. So sometimes I straighten them up, and just increase the color a little bit, and that's a quick flick of the button. So I really haven't done a lot to this particular picture, but yeah, just the colors for me really pop, especially Greedo, because it's yes, okay, you got a fantastic figure, Han Solo, but for me, this shot is about that scene and
yeah.
mainly Greedo, to be honest.
I mean, again, I'd said it with the Boba Fett figure. These are in absolute incredible condition. They really are in good condition because normally you get some paint rub on the feet
Yeah,
and the knuckles and the noses and stuff like that. But
yeah,
these look absolutely fantastic.
yeah. I think you can see on Walrus Man's face just a little bit of rub in the middle, unless it's shadow, but it looks like rub. Looks like a bit of paint has come off.
Oh God, I haven't got my glasses. I'm not going to be able to see that, mate. Crikey. So, so
Right.
yeah, but no, I mean, but overall, I think the figures are absolutely fantastic. Right, moving on. Now, I've left this one to last because this is the one that we bought up at Echo, and this is my personal favorite. This I just find absolutely stunning. I there's the colors, everything. It's just an absolute beautiful shot. And this was the photo that brought me over
Yeah.
to your stall. What was your thought process behind this?
Same as the last one, really. I couldn't do it justice. I wanted to do it. I've been doing this for like 7 years now, and I've always thought about this. This was on the list for me to
Yeah.
create, but I just couldn't do it justice. I didn't feel as if I had it in me to do it. Um,
Wow.
and, uh, and I gave up one day and just put it together. Got a friend to make the background. He sent it to me. Um, yeah, that's it really. That's it. That's it. I did have a.
You've done it justice. You have
Thank you.
done it justice. It looks incredible. Absolutely stunning.
Thank you. Thank you very
Mark?
much.
No, not a problem at all. Mark?
Yeah, no, I can see why Stu saved this for last, and I can also understand why he would have purchased this from you at Echo. I probably would have purchased it as well if I was there. And um, before we get to the end of the show, I think it's probably fair to say that Stu will be leaving links to your Insta and any other socials, just so, because
Yeah.
folks, I'm telling you, these pictures are so good. They'd look good on anybody's wall. If you're a Star Wars fan, if you're a toy collector, it's the perfect combo. And yeah, this is a brilliant almost like feature photo. If you were selling your wares, so to speak, I think this would be an excellent almost kind of brand logo photo, because I think it encapsulates perfectly what you've been doing up until now, and what you've been able to pull off. And at the risk of sounding like somewhat repetitive, because I know we've continuously kept on going back to the limited articulation, but it's the little ways you position these figures, R2 at the slight tilt, Leia bending over, like you're getting the most out of a very limited buck, those 5 POAs, like, and you're making them appear so lifelike.
Yeah.
You mentioned you'd gotten your friend to make the background and all this, like from beginning to end. How long did it take you to get all this one?
Um, from beginning to end, I had the thought many years ago, but to actually get the background and set everything up, it was a tricky one. It was a really tricky one. I had a red light on the, I can't remember, right. It must have been on the left hand side, to give it a bit more oomph, a bit more color in it. I don't know, maybe a couple of hours. I'm pretty sure I did it again the next night because I wasn't happy with the arm position and the feet position. I think she kept falling over, or I think I had a bit of a problem. So I put a bit of, sorry guys, I put a bit of blue tack underneath the heel just to make sure that she stayed put.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe in total, maybe about three-ish hours.
Wow.
And
Wow.
don't forget, it's the camera's on a tripod. You got the lights, you got the red light, and in all of the pictures, I zoom in on the back of the camera. I zoom in and make sure I am focused in on the eyes, because if you don't get the eyes
Yeah.
focused, the picture won't be the same. It won't create a spark. You have to
Yeah.
have the eyes in focus. So you zoom in manually. So you take it off automatic focus, put it on manual, and just make sure you've got the eyes in focus.
See,
And then
that's the attention to
obviously
detail.
zoom out again.
That's the attention to detail. And I
Mm.
love that. And I also noticed as well, you've got the slight reflection of Leia and R2D2 in the floor below. So again, absolute quality. So listen, for me, photography is a mixture of all different kind of ingredients. You need the lighting, you need the right setting, you need the right, the camera exposure and all that sort of stuff. And but what it takes is an actual talented person to get all those ingredients together and produce something like this. This is, I can't say it enough. Absolutely stunning. I love the colors. I love Princess Leia anyway. But what you've done here, you saying that you were worried because you didn't know you could pull it off. Well, mate, I can tell you now, you've done it justice. Absolutely stunning. On that, is there anything that you would do differently in your approach to this photo, or is there anything that you
Wow.
would change with this photo?
Well, there is an alternative photo.
Is there?
There is an alternative which I have played around with. Like I said, made it straighter,
Yeah.
might have made it a little bit darker, brighter. But there is an alternative with stormtroopers in the foreground, like
Ooh.
just the back of them, just the shoulders, just this
Yeah.
kind of silhouette. So one, I'm pretty sure there was one either side. So I did change it, but I preferred this one. but there is an
That
alternative version.
that would have thrown a whole different feel to that photo. That would have thrown a whole different feel to it because you know what's going on with R2 and Leia, but then you've also got that sense of the Empire's right there, right they're closing on you sort of thing, and it's so it just throws a whole different feeling to that photo. So yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So
Mark,
It's like once again, it's a phenomenal photo. I know like for all the ones we've looked at so far, I've asked you, well, how long did it take from start to finish and all this stuff, but I'm actually curious now to ask because you kind of just mentioned it in passing earlier when we were looking a couple of shots ago about putting things back in the cabinet or taking
yeah,
things out of the cabinet. Do you have to spend a lot of time, because obviously, like as Stu mentioned several times, your figures are in immaculate condition. I'm assuming you take care of them. Is it time consuming to actually even just get the stuff ready to be shot and then to actually have to put everything back in its place again? Does that eat into a lot of your time when you're doing these
um,
photos?
it, yeah. I mean, it the actual shots themselves, I will be down in my little studio or office, whatever you want to call it. It would the actual photos themselves would take about probably an hour, maybe an hour and a half. The total time you're probably looking at, I don't know, setting everything up, putting everything away, clearing the sand up. There's that Anakin thing again. Probably about God, yeah, really eats into your evening. Probably probably about 3 hours
wow, wow,
from
I
start
had
to
figured.
finish, from start to finish. And sometimes, but after me and my wife have dinner before we put our child to bed, I'll be trying to set up so it doesn't eat too much into my evening. You know,
yeah, wow. I mean, how
It's
much?
amazing though. It's
When,
amazing like how it turned out.
yeah, definitely. So, how often do you do these types of photography shots?
yeah, good question. I used to do it. I used to do them. The last time I did one was round about summertime last year. I know we didn't have a summertime, but let's just say July, August
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
time.
yeah.
This was actually, I'm pretty sure this one and the Greedo Cantina one were the last ones I did in July. I'm sorry to say,
Wow,
but otherwise I was knocking them out like once a month. But
wow.
it's an expensive
Yeah,
hobby as well because if I haven't got a figure, I will jump on eBay or go to Echo Base and make
yeah,
sure that that toy doesn't have blemishes, scratches. So you do have to pay a little bit more for them, you know?
yeah, yeah.
I get
Definitely.
really lucky sometimes if I do go on eBay and I think, "Oh my god, nobody's bid on that one. Let's get it," you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So, so yeah.
No, that's unbelievable, unbelievable. And do you have any more in the pipeline? You working on anything else at the moment?
Yes, good
Oh,
question. I am. Story
okay,
over.
okay. Well, that was a
Yeah,
short
no,
and
I am.
sweet.
It's gonna be a
Yep.
scene-ish. Really decided yet. Again, it's been in my thought process for a long, long time, but it's from Empire Strikes Back.
Cool, cool. Mark,
Yeah.
I think you got one more question to ask, Mark, and then is there anything else that you want to add
Yeah,
before we
well, my
finish?
my final question, as it's kind of been with your previous ones, for your top five for what you chose today, and I know it was obviously Stu's favorite, that's why he saved it to last. But for in general, for picking your top five yourself, what was it about this one that made the cut for you?
This shot here,
Yeah,
I think I think the colors, the way that it looks, it looks old. It it looks vintage. It's a classic scene. It's something that I am very proud of. I'm proud of all of my photographs, but I'm super proud
Yeah,
of this one because it takes me back to the what second scene of the original films. And thank you for saying that I've done it justice. It's one of those things, being the
yeah,
critic that I am, I think I have done it justice. I think I've done it well,
yeah. You have.
especially with this particular layer on her left eyebrow. I got lucky on her left eyebrow. a lot of it's kind of missing. So the fact that she's looking to her left,
Yeah.
I got away with it. You can't really see it.
No, but honest to God, I mean, I'm just gonna go back through your. I mean, this is, for me, is my favourite, but again, I love it. Absolutely quality. Loving that one. The scope and the grandeur of this one, just to the enormity of it, with how dense it is in the background there, knowing that there's a massive Tatooine desert with just nothing for miles and miles. You've captured that one. You've captured that feeling for sure. Again, this one, the scene that we wanted to see in Return of the Jedi, but we never got around to doing it. You've put that there, and that's absolutely quality. This one here, again, I think this has got to be my second favorite, because the fact that it's actually in the rain and it's outside, I think that looks just absolutely tremendous. And then again, this Hoth one here as well, just absolutely stunning. Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure. Your artwork is just absolute superb.
Thank you so much.
BobaHicks, anything else you want to say before we go?
Yeah, I agree with everything Stu said. You're a phenomenal photographer. Have you ever given any thought to maybe releasing like a collected volume of your work, or like any type of an art book or a photo book or anything like that?
No, I haven't. I've never really thought about that. That's a good idea. That's a,
Could be
would
something
it
to
sell?
sell.
Would it sell? Would people buy it? I don't know. Maybe. Good idea.
Yeah,
You know, I think
definitely.
there's a lot of people out there who have a real nostalgic feeling for the old kind of figures, and they occupy a really special place in a lot of people's hearts and minds. There would probably be a lot of people out there who would love to have like just a book that you could flick through and see these classic figures in realistic situations. And it could be like, hey, if I had some spare cash lying about, it'd be the type of thing I could probably see myself picking up. And I do hope to, once I've trolled through your work a bit more, I may be making a purchase in the somewhat near future myself. But look, and I would highly recommend anybody watching and listening now, go check out Andy's Instagram page, just to get we've given you a kind of a feel and a taste for what he's done, but like there's a lot more there that you can be looking at and admiring. And I would definitely recommend anybody watching now go check out Andy's Insta and see what he's got to offer, because it's some top notch, top class stuff, I have to
Yeah,
say.
yeah. And I will echo what Mark said. It's the fact that it's the vintage Kenner figures, and I know that a lot of people of our generation have got a particular love for those kind of figures and that nostalgia. And what you've done is you've done something that we all wish that we could do and envisage and see ourselves what we'd want to do with those figures. And you've just set the bar so high with those figures. And it's
Thank you.
refreshing, because like I say, the people that we have seen, they've it's all been modern day figures and stuff like that, with full articulation and the proper the face sculpts and the realistic face looks and stuff like that. And but this is absolute superb what you've done with these 5 POA figures, and yeah, absolutely fantastic. Other than
Thank
Instagram, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, we are on most of the social medias. Facebook's where I predominantly put out my stuff.
Yeah,
Um, I was on TikTok, but I still don't really understand TikTok with
no, neither
Sidiousart.
do I.
I don't really
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Twitter, sometimes I put an image on Twitter as well, so you can find
Yeah.
us on Twitter, but mainly Insta and Facebook.
Do you have you not got a website?
I did. Not a lot of people tend to buy through that website, so I closed it down. I'm actually on
Okay.
Etsy, so thank you for reminding me. I do have an Etsy shop, so yeah,
What I'll
jump on Etsy.
do is I will put the links to your social media platforms in the description below.
Cool.
And if you could send me the link to your Etsy as well, I'll put that up as well. Because listen, if you do get an opportunity, if you've got a spare bit of cash to part with, I highly recommend buying something from Andy, one of his photographies, photographs and stuff like that, because absolutely stunning. Andy, I've got to say, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. It really has. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
You made
Thank
me
you.
feel very comfortable. Thank you very much, guys.
Well, no,
Cheers
that
back.
was well. I'm glad, because I knew you felt a little bit nervous, but
Yeah,
it's all good, mate. You've done really well. So,
thank you
anything
so
else
much.
before we go, Mark?
Well, Andy's a top-notch dude. Really enjoyed having the chat with him. Really enjoyed looking at his work, and will continue to enjoy looking at his work through the glorious technology of social media and the like. So yeah, great stuff, Andy.
Absolutely.
Delighted to have chatted with you.
Thank you. Really,
Okay.
really lovely to meet you both. Thank you very much.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. Once again, I just want to say a huge thank you to my co-host, Mark BobaHicks, absolute legend. And I want to say a huge thank you to Andy from Sidiousart. Fantastic stuff. Thank you as well for watching. It does mean a lot. Take care, stay safe, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.